Welcome to our Responsible Citizenship, Responsible Leadership series, brought to you by Dr. Kiiza Emmanuel ALIBA, the National Executive Secretary of the Justice and Peace Department of the Uganda Episcopal Conference. Thank you for loving Uganda Catholic Television. Thank you for watching this wonderful television. And thank you for loving our program, Responsible Leadership, Responsible Citizenship. Happy New Year to all of you. We thank God that we have ended 2023 and now we are in New Year 2024. I congratulate all of you upon this year 2024. And for us as a family, my family, the ALIBA's family, this is our Jubilee year. We are celebrating 20 years of our marriage. My wife and I got married on the 24th of April, 2004. So we are 20 years in marriage, and we are going to say thank you to God for the wonderful gifts the Lord has blessed us with in these 20 years of marriage. This year is our year of Jubilee. Please join me to thank God for the 20 years we have spent in our marriage with my beloved wife, Mrs. Maria Kiaterekera ALIBA. We are very grateful to God. The last time we were here, we were still discussing, looking at the different pastoral letters written to us by the Catholic bishops of Uganda. And we had reached the pastoral letter number 9, which was mainly on the constitutionalism. The bishops wrote to the Constituency Assembly, to the people who are making our constitution. They wrote in 1989, and the letter was towards the new constitution. So they gave their ideas about how the process of making a constitution should be and what they felt should be done during the constitutional process. So today we are coming again with another pastoral letter, or a message that the bishops wrote after their plenary. In 1989, the bishops spent some time in June, in their June plenary. They dealt with one topic, and that was the AIDS epidemic, the AIDS disease that had broken up in Uganda, and it was killing a lot of people, especially in the side of Masaka diocese, in the Rakai district. People were dying, and there were a lot of mystery about this disease. Some people are thinking it was witchcraft, that the witchcraft, people were bewitching each other, because the disease was strange. Somebody with some flesh like me, within no time after the contracting of this disease, someone loses the body completely and dies with almost bones only. It was a very strange disease at that time, and people did not know what caused it, how did it come. So people were speculating about this disease. So the bishops took time to discuss about this disease, and then they guided the people of Uganda on how they should take care of this disease, how they should treat this disease, how they should treat one who had contracted this disease, and also to remove some mystery that was attached to this AIDS epidemic. So they wrote this letter, the AIDS epidemic, This time I have traveled with the very letter that they wrote. It is very small. It's not a big one. It has 18 pages. So the AIDS epidemic, 18 pages. So this is the message the bishops gave to Ugandans in regard to HIV AIDS epidemic. This is the message. And it is the letter that we are going to deal with today in this program. Now, many people didn't know exactly what this disease was all about, how it came, how it should be treated. How do you treat somebody who had contracted it? So there was a mystery surrounding this disease. Others was saying that possibly God had punished the sinful Ugandans, that God had come to punish the sinful Ugandans so that they can stop sinning. This is what people were thinking, you know, speculating. Others were thinking after that liberation war that took place in Uganda, that the bombs that had been, there was a lot of bombing. So they said the gases of those bombs were causing that disease. So people were speculating. People did not know exactly what it was. And yet, many more people were contracting it and many were dying. So the bishops gave the guidance in this letter, the AIDS epidemic, and this is what they said. So they wrote this letter to the clergy, to the religious, and all the people of God, to men and women of goodwill. And they started the letter with giving us peace and blessings, God's blessings. So they addressed all the citizens, and in their introduction they said, our country, Uganda, has for a long time fought against three main enemies, namely poverty, ignorance, and disease, with varying degrees of success. But it is only in rare cases that all the three enemies are intricately tied together in one. And such is the case now when we have AIDS in our midst. The infectious disease, which is AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, otherwise commonly called SLIM, is with us here in Uganda, and as it is in almost every country in the world. But here in our country, it has spread to extremely alarming proportions, mainly due to the breakdown of family life and traditional values. So they gave the reasons here. Why is it spreading very fast? Because of the breakdown of family life and traditional values. As I've already discussed with you, traditionally, people would not just look for a wife. No, they married from families. Up to now, some serious families marry from families. They don't marry a particular person. No, you get married because you are from a particular family. Why family? Because it is the family that forms an individual. As I've already discussed with you, my bishop, I come from Hoima Diocese. The Bishop of Hoima, Bishop Vincent Kirabo, is very passionate about families. Every time he's talking to us, in almost every homily, He says we as family heads should transfer all that is good within us to our children, so that when we are no longer in this space, the children may comfortably occupy this space. He's very passionate about families, and is rightly so. So our bishops here are saying, why is AIDS spreading very fast? It's because of the breakdown of families. Fellow viewers of Uganda Catholic Television, Good News for All, I would like us to take the issue of family life so seriously. It's the families that make us, and it is the families that break us. The family where I come from contributes to a very large extent on the behavior and the life that I live in society. Up to now, you look at a child, you can easily guess the type of family where the child is coming from by the behavior. Either good behavior or bad behavior. You hear a child mentioning words that can, you wonder, which cannot even come out of a person's mouth. You hear a little boy, a little girl, and it's, where did he or she learn them from? You see, our behavior as parents is reflected in the behavior of the children. So once our families are broken down, our societies break down. And this is why we come with this program, Responsible Citizenship, Responsible Leadership. Why? We would like to help each other. Let's build our families, because they are the families that break us, or they are the families that make us. So when the bishops are talking about the breakdown of family life, I can see them, their hearts are bleeding. When they see the AIDS epidemic is multiplying because of the breakdown of the family, I can see the bishops' hearts are bleeding. The family should be the strongest unit of human formation on this planet, on this earth. The strongest unit. So let's protect our families. Let's transfer the beauty of our families. Let them be reflected in the lives of our children. Then we shall have a better society once we have responsible citizens who are coming from good families. The breakdown of families and the breakdown of traditional values. Yeah, it's reflected in society. The breakdown of traditional values. There are values which we have to cherish. Our traditional values. I've liked some tourists when they come here. When you meet them again in their countries, they say, Ugandans are very warm people. Ugandans are very welcoming people. You know, that statement alone makes our country a beautiful country, that we are very welcoming people. We are very warm people. You know, where are we getting this warmth? Where are we getting this welcoming spirit? It's through our traditional values. So there are those that we should cherish and protect. So the bishops are saying that in their introduction. In number 2, they say it is in this sad situation we have thought it opportune to address a message of challenge and of solidarity to our citizens, to our fellow citizens. We address ourselves not only to those who bear the name Christian, but to all people of goodwill. So the bishops are addressing this letter to all people of goodwill. Number 3, they are saying the Catholic Church has a long tradition of reaching out to the people, not only in times of joy, but also in moments of tragedy and crisis. AIDS is a serious global problem which we have scarcely begun to address. It is also a matter of great concern for the Church, for the joy and hope, the grief and anguish of the men of our time, especially of those who are poor or afflicted in any way, are the joy and hope, the grief and anguish of the followers of Christ as well. So they quote this from the Pastoral Constitution on the Church in the Modern World, which in Latin we call Gaudium et Spes, and they quote number 1 of that constitution of the Church, on the Church. The first thing they addressed here on number 4, on page 4, they said, let's first know the disease. That this disease is not out of bewitching. Let's know the disease, that now we have a disease called AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. We have that disease. It's not caused by the bombs of the war. It's not caused by witchcraft. We have a disease. We have an epidemic. So this is what they address, that we have to know that there is a disease called AIDS. And once we know, say once you know something, then you can easily get the way of going through with it, how to live with it, or how to protect yourself, how to protect others. So the bishops said, let us first know the disease. And on number 6, the bishops went ahead to call Ugandans to conversion. Let's live a new life. They said in number 6, AIDS should not be seen in isolation, but rather against the background of many changes in attitude with regard to family life and the loss of moral values. The main cause of the rapid spread of this disease here in Uganda, as shown by surveys carried out, has been the loosening of sexual behavior. The bishops are very bold on this. It's because of the loosening of the sexual behavior. It's very sad. The loosening of the sexual behavior. A discipline that we have to protect, that we have to be strong into, now we have loosened. You know, they say sexual disorder. The bishops have called it a sexual disorder. This one I had not heard before. A sexual disorder, a new mental disorder, and the bishops are calling it sexual disorder. Has been enhanced by the recent years of turmoil which our country has endured, and by outside influences. We have imported books, magazines, films, and songs often teach that sex can be separated from married love. It's unfortunate. When you see the films that are being sold when you hear the music that is being played, when you see the videos that are being played on a number of televisions, when you see what our children are watching, you see what the bishops are calling sexual disorder. Everywhere, when you see the pornographic literature, when you see what, now the sexual behavior now is now something simple, it has been separated from what God intended it to be. The seal of marriage, love in marriage, now it has been divorced from marriage. It is now everywhere in the market, on the market, everywhere. The sexual behavior. That you can have even some money and you go and buy, you buy sex somewhere. You buy what they call prostitution. So the bishops are calling it sexual disorder. Sexual disorder. So the bishops are saying we have to go for conversion. We have to come out of this dirty behavior and renew ourselves and renew our lives so that we protect the institution of family and we also protect our treasured values. We have our treasured values that Ugandans are supposed to follow. We have to protect them, not this sexual disorder. So the bishops mention that. They say there is also a philosophy according to which sex can be enjoyed as a right of everybody, married or unmarried, provided it is made safe. So when we come back, we shall look at this after our short break. As long as there is that name called safe sex, so you can enjoy safe. So fellow viewers, thank you for watching Uganda Catholic Television, Good News for All. And now we are going into our commercial break, and we shall come back and we do the last section of the bishop's pastoral letter on the AIDS epidemic. Thank you, and keep watching Uganda Catholic Television, Good News for All. Welcome back from that commercial break, and thank you for loving Uganda Catholic Television, and thank you for viewing Uganda Catholic Television, Good News for All. Thank you for loving our program, Responsible Citizenship, Responsible Leadership, a program always brought to you from the Justice and Peace Department of the Uganda Episcopal Conference. Before we broke off, we had started looking at the 10th pastoral letter of the bishops of Uganda, which is on the AIDS epidemic. The bishops had spent time during their plenary of 1989 in June. They spent time to study, to learn about this, to meditate on what is this strange disease called AIDS. So after their study, they gave a message to all Ugandans, to all God's people, And this is the message that we are handling this very. Number 8 on page 6, the bishops guided us on how we should respond to this disease. What should be a Christian response to this disease? And the bishops are saying the Christian response to this situation is twofold. Number 1, we should have a humble and sincere look at one's own lifestyle in the light of God's word. In the light of God's word. The response as a Christian, the bishops are proposing, are guiding us to do, is to sincerely look at each person's life in light of the God's word, in light of the gospel. And we should sincerely look at it, not cosmetically, but sincerely look at it. That's what the bishops are guiding us to do. And secondly, we need to reach out to those who are sick, or those who are bereaved, or those who are orphaned as a result of this epidemic. There are those who have contracted it, and they need our touch, our care. We thank the Uganda Catholic Medical Bureau. They do a lot in caring for these people who have been, who have contracted this disease. Up to now, Uganda Catholic Medical Bureau does a lot on this. So that's the approach the bishops are saying, not only by the health workers, but by each one of us. In a community where you find people who have contracted it, they need a hand to reach out to them, so that they also feel the dignity of being human beings. Because they can get isolated, they can get aloof if we do not approach them with a helping hand. So the bishops have given us the guidance. The first is we examine ourselves sincerely in light of the gospel, and the second is our approach to our people who have been affected or infected by this disease. The bishops are saying, in tackling the enormous task of preventing further spread of AIDS, we must do all we can to call people back to God's law. Our teaching must be truthful and upholding Christian values. Our teaching should emphasize, the first is, let us be prepared to challenge unchristian and untruthful literature that is around us. Let's challenge that literature. You know? We stand and challenge anything against our values. That literature, the pornographic literature and so on, we stand and challenge it. And number 2, we should educate people in Christian principles. Boldly, we educate people that these are the Christian principles that we should uphold as Christians. And number 3, we should challenge traditional customs which can spread the disease. We challenge those customs that can escalate the disease. So we should form youth support groups in which responsible behavior patterns are encouraged. The young people, bring them close to us. and we form them into groups where they can discuss this matter in every age bracket, because information is always shared in accordance to the age. There is information that you cannot share with the babies. There is information that you cannot share when the child is this age, but there is information you can share at adolescent age. So the information should be structured in that way. But the young people need to bring them close to us and share openly this information of the upholding Christian values, not allowing premarital sex, how to safeguard against it. Because sex is meant for marriage. It's meant in marriage, not anything outside that. So our young people need to know this information, to have this information, and to uphold this value of one protecting himself or herself at the young age until the age has come for marriage. Because that is what our Christian value should be. Then we encourage legitimate marriages. We make marriage celebrations simple, inexpensive, and possible for everybody. There are some marriage ceremonies I see, and I fear. People have put in a lot of money, It is good to spend, but not spend lavishly. You make our people fear, And some of our young people would like to be like others. Remember, we are not equal. Where my capacity is, that is the ceremony I should make. If you want to make a ceremony like the other one, you never know the other one's financial muscle, financial capacity. So you do something that is within your reach. So here the bishops are saying, let's make these marriage celebrations simple and inexpensive. You see? So use all available means to communicate the Christian message to our young people, to, use the means possible. On our Catholic radios, let's talk about it. On our television, let's talk about it. If you have an opportunity, please talk about HIV/AIDS. And you have heard about His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. Worldwide is known for bringing up these values boldly. You saw how he was concerned about when we got COVID here. So in the campaign against HIV, he has been spearheading this. So let's do the same. Up to now, the disease is there. We shouldn't keep quiet until AIDS is out of our way. We can prevent it. It's going down, but we should do more. When they say this percentage of Ugandans are having HIV/AIDS, we should have 0. And to reach 0, it's my effort and yours. This letter was not addressed only to Catholics, no. To every citizen in Uganda. Each one has an obligation to prevent this HIV/AIDS. Let's take it as one of our cardinal roles. We say, in our society, we talk about it, we talk about the dangers of HIV/AIDS so that we reduce completely this AIDS until we reach to 0%. And it is possible we can reach there if we all worked together. So the bishops are very open to that. In 11, that is what they say. Let us all join hands together and ensure that HIV is no longer a problem in our country. In number 15, they say, let's practice virtue with spiritual motives. That virtue, we have to practice it. They gave recommendations to the pastors of the souls, to the priests and those who take care of our souls, to increase the campaign against HIV. They also gave practical guidelines or guidance to those who already are infected and affected by HIV/AIDS on number 19. So they say, as God's children, you are encouraged to have a positive attitude to life. If you have the disease already, you should have a positive life, a positive attitude to life, and have hope and trust in God. So the bishops give guidance. Then to those working with the youth, the bishops also say, if you are working with the youth, please help the young people not to contract this disease. Tell them how this disease is contracted, and they should avoid, so that we have a healthy young generation. Then we shall have a health population in the future. And they say, they also encouraged people to go for HIV test. Test. Let it be like any normal test that we go through, so that you know your status. And once you know your status, you are able to manage that status. If you know you are free of HIV, you are free, you know how to manage yourself. If you have contracted it and you know, then you go for treatment. The treatment for, the escalation of the disease, the medical people will always advise on how to go over it. Then they appealed also to the married people. Say, to you who have received the sacrament of matrimony, we stress and remind that the most significant mode of transmission of the virus is through normal heterosexual contact, and that the greatest risk factor is multiple sexual partners. So they appealed to us to avoid multiple sexual partners. If we have made a covenant, let's stick to our covenant. Let's stick to our covenant. And then we shall not contract HIV/AIDS once we stick to the covenant that we made before God and before his people. So they also appealed to the friends and relatives of the AIDS patients to take good care of the patients who have contracted HIV/AIDS. They also appealed to the health workers to they are encouraged when they see their parents recover. In the case of AIDS, however, dear health workers in Uganda, you have to face the sad fact that you can only offer symptomatic relief to your patients. So they appeal them to the health workers to see that all the symptoms that are that come with HIV/AIDS, they handle well. And then to all believers, they told us, the bishop said, we should pray. We should pray for the people who have contracted this disease, and we also pray in our churches that God will help us to come over this hurdle. So they concluded this conclusion. I read it the way it is. And they concluded and said, the tragedy of the AIDS epidemic touches each one of us. And here again, we experience our human fragility and limitations. With the sad experience of burying our relatives and friends every day, in many cases, having several such burials on the same village each day, we recall and make our own the torment of Rachel. They quoted Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 15. A voice is heard in Ramah, lamenting and weeping bitterly. It is Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children because they are no more. However, the bishops concluded, we believers do not lament in the same way as those who have no faith. We see in this phenomenon of AIDS God's hand, who certainly wants to tell us something. And Numbers 36, which is the last, they say, let each one of us look into his or her innermost self in order to find out what this epidemic means for him or her here and now. Latin, you say, hic et nunc, here and now. It challenges us in all aspects of our living. Let us strengthen our faith and trust in the Almighty God, who is himself the life and source of all life. Let this be an incentive for work, solidarity, interior purification, and personal salvation. Meanwhile, we can be sure that if we return to God with all our hearts, he will certainly come to rescue us from our plight. And they signed their letter on the 8th of December, 1989, on the feast of the birth of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Fellow viewers, this is the summary of the bishop's letter, of the bishop's message to us in regard to this AIDS epidemic. The AIDS epidemic is still there. We are still living with it here in Uganda. So let us all join efforts together with our health workers to ensure that we prevent the spread of this killer disease. It is still there. Especially you, our younger generation, would like to have a healthy generation in the future. But we cannot have a healthy situation if you don't prevent yourselves. You, our young Ugandans, prevent yourselves from contracting this disease called HIV/AIDS. We want to see you healthy. We want to see you stronger. Because you see, us, your parents, are no longer, our strength is going down. I remember when I was a young boy, I used to be one of the best players of basketball. Right from senior 2, I was a basketball player. But now, when I go to play, I don't play like the way I used to do, because the strength has gone down. I can't jump like I used to jump. I can't run like I used to run. The strength has gone down. You, our sons and daughters, we expect your strength to be going up. Now, if you get HIV/AIDS, who will carry me when I am old? Because when you get it, you are most likely going to die before me. Then when I'm old, who will carry me to the, you know? I will not have this strength to walk by myself. So I will need somebody to hold me by the hand and put me outside so that I enjoy the sun. So if you die, that means I will never enjoy the sun at my old age. So this is why we come here to appeal to you, our young generation, prevent the spread of HIV/AIDS. Prevent it. We want to see you healthy. We want to see you strong. We want to see you growing very well. That is our joy, so that our next generation is much stronger than our generation. The parents, those parents who are watching Uganda Catholic Television, Good News for All, the appeal of the bishops to us is still as valid as it was at that time when the bishops issued this letter. Let's have good families. And nobody is going to come to your home to help you have a good family. It all starts and ends with you. You, the couples. You can decide to have a good family. Surely you can, and you are able to. But you can also decide not to have a good family. And this, you will not only suffer it now, you will actually suffer it more in the future than now. Because if you do not have a good family, your children will not be good citizens, will not be responsible citizens, and you will be suffering indirectly or directly. Because you know, producing a thief, how bad it is. When you see your son is the one being beaten because of being a thief. Family members, I would like to conclude here. Let us have very good families. Then we shall have responsible citizens in the future. Thank you for viewing Uganda Catholic Television. Good News for All. Keep viewing and keep supporting us.